affiliation?
I'm Robert Self, and Professor of History at Brown University.
All right. You've got an interesting take on the '64 election, which is not going to be familiar with most people in the audience. What's your take on it?
I was asked by Bruce Schulman to think through the 1964 election through the lens of gender and women's history, through the lens of a book I recently did on the politics of gender, sexuality, and family. And so I was trying to think about how we might rethink 1964 as an election in which gender was really at the center, when in fact when you look back at the campaign speeches and the press reports, it wasn't particularly an election where gender was at the center, at least of how the candidates debated. So I really tried to think about how we then might think about the implications of 1964. The big argument that I'm making is really not that novel. It's really just to say, summarizing a lot of existing historical literature by women's historians, feminist historians, and others who have looked at the Great Society legislation, particularly the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, and the surge in congressional liberals in the mid-1960s and early 1970s, and have looked at the ways in which the state and the architecture, in a way, of the Great Society became a real space for feminist organizing, whether it was around questions of childcare and daycare, or questions of Medicare and Medicaid, and ultimately through Title VII in particular, Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, really the foundation, along with the 14th Amendment, for the whole remaking of the American workplace, or incomplete, but transformation of the American workplace.
So we shouldn't just think of '64 in terms of the Civil Rights Act and Medicare. There's this other gender element that we've been missing.
I think that's right. And again, I don't think it was foremost, it wasn't a gendered election in terms of how the candidates themselves and many activists thought about it. But the implications for a couple of election cycles past 1964 had profound repercussions for American women in particular, and for what you might call gendered citizenship in the United States more generally.
Great. Thanks so much.